Hello everyone, my name is AJ, and I haven't come up with a good intro yet. Today, I'll be redesigning Sera and Emily for my Hazbin AU, the bed and breakfast for former baddies. There will also be a surprise character at the end. Sorry if the quality of the audio is a bit of a downgrade from my usual quality. I just recently moved into a brand new apartment, and I have roommates now, and I don't want to bother them, and because the walls are thin here. So it's gonna be like this for a while, very different from my usual style, but hopefully it'll be okay anyway. Without further ado, let's get into it. Sera and Emily are two seraphim that we meet in episode 6. Sera is the high seraphim, and Emily is... it's unclear what her responsibilities are. They have some kind of familial relationship. It's a little unclear what exactly it is. I thought they were sisters, but I couldn't find anything to confirm that on the official wiki. Let's start with Emily. Before I actually started drawing, I did a little bit of research on the visual appearances of seraphim. We don't know exactly what they look like, but based on the scriptures we have, it is widely believed that they are humanoid. I was actually a little disappointed by that because I wanted to make them look really, really wild because I had seen so-called biblically accurate depictions of them before. Those depictions are actually of Oraphim, not of Seraphim. The two are often confused because they have a lot of different traits in common. The scriptures I found described them as having 3 pairs of wings, 1 pair to cover their face, 1 pair to cover their feet, and 1 pair to fly with. So I covered up Emily's face and turned her skirt into wings. In the show, seraphs have an angelic form and a human form. I won't be doing this. I normally really like to have fun with the different forms, but I don't see any point to it this time. These creatures are supposed to be the embodiment of grace, benevolence, and perfection, and they know it. I think they would just stay in their angelic forms all the time. The only reason I can think for them to switch to human forms would be to make humans feel more comfortable around them, but that seems like something they'd only do outside of heaven when they're delivering messages. I don't think they would switch forms around human angels. In the original show, Emily is purposely written and designed to have a lot of parallels to Charlie. She's super bubbly and excitable, she's got a lot of Disney princess coding, stuff like that. I really like that idea, so I wanted to do the same thing with my version. My version of Charlie is very different from the show's version. I have a whole video about her that you should definitely watch, but here's a little summary in case you haven't seen it in a long time. Because she was raised in hell, Charlie didn't have any moral compass for the majority of her life. Caring about people and being kind isn't something that comes naturally to her, but she's trying really hard to be good anyway. Emily is the reverse. She doesn't know anything other than perfect goodness. Emily is who Charlie would be if she was raised differently. Currently, you can't tell that Charlie and Emily have identical body types and facial shapes because the wings are hiding it, but if ever Emily opened up her wings, it would be impossible to ignore that they look almost identical. Now let's move on to Sera. Sera was far more difficult than Emily was. I had this idea in my head that I was really attached to that I just couldn't get my hands to draw. You can see on screen here that I pulled up reference of the 4-legged blue fairy from Guillermo del Toro's Pinocchio pulled up. Sorry if my pronunciation is bad. That's what I wanted. I wanted to do that but with eyes and wings instead of horns and a human face. Like how a pile of owls looks like a pile of... Here's a pile of barn owl chicks. But my hands, the art wouldn't art. I don't know what was wrong with me. I just couldn't get animal proportions to work for me no matter how hard I tried. I even tried again later after I had finished the art for this video to see if maybe it was just an art block thing, but nah. I'm going to have to practice drawing creatures more often. I've been doing humanoids for too long, I've lost all my skills. So with a very heavy heart and great disappointment, I had to give up on my best idea. So I started over with a completely different idea. Lady Justice. Lady Justice is a personification of the moral force that guides the judicial systems. She's almost always depicted as wearing a blindfold and a toga, so I used those as my biggest points to build off of. I decided to give Sera a wing skirt too. Her wings are bigger and stiffer, so the shape of it is very different than Emily's. Sera is a kind but very serious character. Emily is a free spirit. I wanted to reflect their two contrasting personalities in their wings. Emily's feathers are all very rounded and soft looking, while Sera's feathers are drawn sharper and more angular. She's still got those soft, round, downy feathers in the insides of her wings, but the majority are longer, more rigid flight feathers. I gave her about half the hair she has in the original show. She's got the top layer only, but the longer bottom layer is absent. This was to improve the silhouette. I love girlies with long hair, but when all the girlies have long hair, you lose a lot of negative space. Negative space can be just as important to a silhouette as shapes. Since we've already got 6 wings to deal with, giving Sera long hair on top of that kind of muddies up the design a little bit. Not that I'm saying that the original is bad or anything, they did it just fine. I just think it could have been improved a little by removing the bottom layer of hair. I didn't want to completely cover Sera's face like I did with Emily's, so I decided to give her a veil instead. The face covering thing in my AU is going to be a modesty cultural thing amongst the seraphim. I think that all of the seraphim are either blind by choice or have their eyes somewhere else on their body, like how Emily has her eye in her chest. Since Sera's top wings are so big, it's more practical for her to have a veil instead of using the wings like most seraphim do. It's also why all of the exorcists wear masks. They're required to follow seraph modesty standards while on business for heaven. So here's the lore. Sera is the Lady of Justice. Emily is the Lady of Mercy. They were directly appointed by God himself to fill those roles. As the Lady of Justice, it is Sera's job to make certain that all human souls are properly sorted into the correct kingdoms. When a human dies, their soul is sent to purgatory, a world between worlds. It is placed directly in the center of existence, equal distances from heaven, hell, and earth. Sera and her quorum of judges preside over purgatory. They spend all day sorting the souls. They start by weighing a person's heart against one of their own feathers. If the heart weighs the same or less than the feather, then they will be released into purgatory for further judging. If it weighs more than a feather, they will be taken to spirit prison for further judging. Souls that weigh less than a seraph's feather will get into heaven. The judging that comes after is to determine which of the 3 kingdoms of glory they get into. Souls that are heavy are either heavy because of guilt or sin. It is possible for someone to feel guilt without sin, and also sin without guilt. Further judging is required to determine whether or not that guilt is supposed to be there. They'll weigh everything good you've ever done against everything bad you've ever done, and that will determine whether or not you get into heaven or hell. When the series starts, the only exceptions they'll give to any rule is if the sin was necessary for your survival. Then and only then will your actions be granted any kind of mercy, and even then it'll still be a case-by-case argument. Emily is in charge of mercy. She mostly concerns herself with the affairs of currently living beings. Her role is to make certain that every human gets opportunities to do good, and also to make sure that everyone gets warnings when it's time for them to make some serious changes to their behavior. She works a lot with the cherubs and human angels that want to help their descendants. Emily deals a lot more with Earth, while Sera deals a lot more with Purgatory. They're supposed to work together in all things, but clearly they're not doing that. It's natural to split up the workload as the work becomes more demanding. The more human souls that go down to Earth at a time, the thinner the 2 sisters are stretched. This is what has been leading to some problems in the system, namely a lack of justice on Earth and a lack of mercy when it's judgment time. The effects of a lack of mercy, I think, are obvious to all of us. There's so many reasons why someone might be driven to do something awful they might not have otherwise done. There's so many people being sent to hell who could have changed, who could have done better if only they had the opportunity. The lack of justice on Earth is just as bad. The lack of justice has created an environment that encourages sin and discourages the idea of divine judgment. We humans are really bad at seeing the bigger picture. Too frequently we focus the majority of our attention on the here and now without thinking about long-term consequences. So there not being any sort of justice coming from heaven for the majority of humanity's existence is really bad. I'm not suggesting they open up the sky and have angels start showing up all the time. That defeats the point of faith, and I'm going to have faith still play an important role in your afterlife. Faith is belief in something you can't see, combined with acting on that. So in order for that to exist, not having any concrete proof of heaven and angels is essential to preserve. But Sera could still stand to, curse people a little more. Give them real bad luck or something. So for the system to be fixed, they're gonna need a lot more employees. Sera and Emily need to work together again and stop hiding things from each other, and they're going to need a whole branch dedicated to helping redeem people. You might be wondering where God is in all of this, because he does exist. A little bit of a tangent here. I'm not going to be writing Jesus into this because I really don't feel comfortable using his name and image for a stupid little fanfiction. It feels blasphemous. I say all this because I saw someone complaining about his absence in one of my comment sections, and I want to make my stance on this clear. Is it blasphemous to include him? Is it more blasphemous not to? I don't know. I'm only human. I'm not a perfect person. Personally, I would be more comfortable never mentioning him by name, but I can't just not have God in there. I really don't like the idea of there not being at least one divine, omnipotent being governing existence. Anyway, in this universe, we are going to have a singular, nameless, perfect, omnipotent being responsible for creating and maintaining all of existence. He is a being that exists outside of time and space. He created the seraphim and other heavenborn to help him manage the humans, so he doesn't have to be responsible for everything. Could he do it all on his own? Yes, but he likes having helpers. He also likes to give all of his creations plenty of room to grow and change and become better on their own. God in this universe is responsible for all motion. Every single chemical process, every single rule of science, he's responsible for all of it. Without him, the rules of science would break and existence would cease. He's busy making sure that every single process functions properly, from something as small as an atom to as large as galaxies. Those are responsibilities so complex and fine-tuned that he can't let anyone other than himself manage them. Social issues like justice and mercy are far simpler in comparison, even if they can be emotionally exhausting. This means that these are tasks that he can confer to other people. So in case you were wondering why he doesn't just come down and fix everything, it's because he's busy keeping the metaphorical lights on, and B, he wants to give his creations the opportunity to be fully independent, which means fixing their own problems. As far as his design goes, I wanted to be as biblically accurate as I could with this. The Bible says that humans are made in the image of God, so what I wanted to do is I wanted God to look like whoever is looking at him. Whenever you see him, you perceive a perfect version of yourself. But obviously I can't really draw that the way that I want to because, everyone looks different. So instead I made his skin rainbow. I tried to make him look like this, I wanted to make him look like he was made out of a substance that is everything all at once. I don't really know how to describe it. Just use your eyes. It also says in the Bible that no one can see his face. There are some exceptions to this rule, but generally people can't see his face unless they have been changed in order to see it. So I covered his face with the star that appeared when Jesus was born. I thought a star would be cute, and it is. It's cute, but in kind of a scary way. I don't know. I don't know how to speak without a script, and I forgot to script this far. For his outfit, I thought I would go with just something simple. I put the most detail into his halo. I did want to use a lot of Christian imagery, even if I don't want to make him into Jesus. I still wanted to use some of the imagery. So I made his crown into a cross shape with some little vines wrapped around it, so he looks more alive. The crown also has thorns around it as a reference to the crown of thorns. The last thing I added was holes in his hands, feet, and sides where he's still bleeding. I believe he is. In order to make it possible for people to repent, Jesus went through kind of a lot, which is understatement of existence. I want to leave the lore surrounding my version of God a little unclear, but I still did. I think the atonement still happened. The atonement is so necessary that there's no way that I can't not include it. So I did give him the wounds that Jesus had after he was sacrificed. So, and those wounds are eternal. They will always be there. So he's in constant pain on top of everything else he has to go through to make sure that his creations are safe and loved. More than anything, I wanted him to exude this a comforting, loving presence. I'm not sure if I quite succeeded. That's all I have to say. Now look at this fan art. This unpronounceable string of letters and numbers over on Twitter made fan art of a few of my Hazbin Hotel characters. They're very talented and you should follow them. A big thank you to my patrons JRDS, Mercer Scott Holt, and J Draws. Also, my Ko-fi supporter, Silent Savvy. Sorry for always forgetting about you. If you want to support me too, you can join my Patreon. I also take commissions. Here are my prices. You can order those on Ko-fi, Instagram, or Discord. You can send me your fan art on Discord or Instagram too. I'd love to see it. All those links will be in the description. Thank you again so much for watching, and I'll see you all next week in a super cool video about Adam Sandler. Bye!